Hello, happy Thursday. Hope everyone had an amazing 4th of July. We've got some fantastic content for you here. I'm Lori Hybe, president and owner of Keystone Click. I'm here with Margie Hayworth.
Hello, how are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be sharing some great information. Keystone Click is a strategic digital marketing agency. We help our clients build brand awareness and generate leads online. We do that by conducting research and insights in order to build a plan that helps our clients achieve their goals. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about that research. And actually, this series of webinars that we have over the next couple of weeks here focuses heavily on research and strategy. So today's topics are very high level with a lot of fundamentals related to research. All right. Move on, slide. Real quick, though, we always want to make sure that you're taking away some great insights. If you find something of value during this webinar, please take a screenshot of it, post it on social media, and tag Keystone Click in it for a chance to win this book, Secrets of Ad Agency Owners, the Biggest Marketing Mistakes I've Ever Seen. Yours truly has a chapter on the topic of blogging, along with, I think there's about a dozen other marketing agencies that are sharing some content in there. The top right-hand corner has our @ symbol and a hashtag. Feel free to use either of those as you post on social media. All right, let's get started.
So, why do research? Why is it important? Why do you even need it? Well, I think the answer is pretty straightforward. We have a fancy quote here, but basically it comes down to, if you don't know where you are, it's harder to create the map to where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
So while this is a very easy step to skip, you really want to do it, because if you don't, you're going to spend more time and money experimenting before you get things right. Don't get me wrong, you'll still need to experiment, but this gives you at least some idea where your target is. You don't want to miss out on opportunities you're not aware of. If you don't do competitor research, you may not unveil the fact that you have something that they don't, that you should be putting out there.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't talk to your customers, you don't know really why they're buying from you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important to do that research to unveil those opportunities. And some of the basic steps toward good marketing research are not just for your marketing, but help your entire company out. So let's get started on what those are. The most important part of research is getting to know yourself. There are a couple different ways you can get to know yourself. It's really important to understand the channels, your audiences. It helps with your messaging, and it helps you separate yourself from your competitors. And one way you can do this, an exercise we find that is very helpful when we work with any of our new clients, is something we call the XYZ. It's a struggle for any business to truly define who they are, how they're different from their competitors. And while this exercise boils it all down to one statement, and that's really hard, it's really worth the effort of taking it. So
yeah, I agree. I mean, it takes a little bit of time to finesse this statement, but it's something that is so powerful, because the goal is that you're standing out from your competitors. As you said, you don't want to sound like every other ice cream shop in town. Right?
Exactly. Maybe you have that coffee flavor I'm looking for, and you just need to figure that out. So as you go through the exercise, your goal is going to be to come up with a statement that says, we do this for this kind of customer so that they can do that. And each part of that formula is important, because you have to define yourself, you have to define your customer, and you have to define the benefit that you give to that customer.
Yeah, one of the things that, even though I'm not a fan of using fluffy words, I'm always a get to the point type of person, I think this is a really good space to really maximize using adjectives, because it's gonna, the adjectives are gonna help you stand out, but more importantly, attract that right type of person to you.
Oh, exactly. Another exercise that we use with our clients is what we call the lotus blossom.
Yeah, so the lotus blossom, this is an exercise where what you want to do is think about the top questions that people are often asking you. And the reason that this is important is because the more that you can understand your customer, the better that you can position yourself so that you're attracting more of the right type of customer. So the example, I'm going to try to use this drawing tool here just to maximize the experience for this lovely webinar. Let's see if this guy will work. So in this, you would start in one of these top boxes in the middle and then just say, you know, let's see. What questions do people often ask you? Well, let's see, I can type, you know, how much does a website cost? How much does it cost? Okay, so that may be something that a lot of people are asking us. Oh, now I lost my little mousey guy. And then what you're gonna do then with this Lotus Blossom exercise is continue to think deeper. So this is an orange box, as you can see, that this initially started in. And then you'll write 8 additional questions related to that one first question. So how much does it cost is a common question that I think any industry gets, not just our industry. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we understand all the questions related to that core question and kind of do what I refer to as the peeling of the onion questions. So the more that you can dive into the questions that are asked, the better you can help figure out how you're positioning yourself online. All right, so now I'm totally stuck. Oh, I think I found it now. How to clear my little formatting. There we go, clear all drawings. Perfect. Thank you for your patience.
On to the next slide.
Yes, almost there. Hit the
All
mouse guy. Oh, there we go. Okay. Thank you for your patience. That was fun. The other thing that's really important to understand for yourself is what is it that you're trying to achieve at the end of the day. So whenever you're building any sort of marketing strategy or plan, you really need to know what goals you're trying to achieve or what is the end goal. And at Keystone Click, we're definitely fans of SMART goals: strategic, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound, so that you can then reverse engineer what you're trying to achieve to build that roadmap on how you're going to get there and figure out with research, is it really attainable? Is your goal relevant to your business, or are the tasks that you're doing in alignment with helping you to achieve the goal at the end of the day?
So what does a SMART goal look like?
Great question. Right here. So let's say if your goal is to increase revenue by 15% in 6 months. So it's SMART because it's specific, it's measurable. So did we increase revenue within a certain time frame? Is it attainable? So can we actually do this within 6 months, or do we need to adjust the goal to be more of an attainable goal? Is it relevant to our business? Well, yes, I would say it is. And is it time sensitive? So yes, can we get it done in a very specified period of time? The reason SMART goals are important ultimately are so that you have a roadmap and you can, again, measure it and make sure that it's getting done in a very specific time frame. So whenever we're doing any sort of research or strategy building for our clients, we want to know what is it that they're trying to achieve at the end of the day. And then, as I said, we can reverse engineer that. And the research is going to tell us, are you doing the right things right now to help you achieve those goals? Or do we need to make adjustments so that you are on the right path, taking the right road to get to your end destination?
Great. After you have that time to put your goals down on paper and really get them crystallized, there's a couple things you need to do to see if you're aligned to reach those goals. As Lori said, you know, we have a roadmap, we know where we want to go. You know, where are we? What's our starting point? Where's home on that map? So we're going to do a couple things to figure that out. One of those is to really look at our website. Technically, is our website in good shape? Are there problems with it that cause people to have a hard time finding us? Are you aligned for SEO? Do you have things optimized? Another thing we're going to look at the website for is to figure out the user experience. I mean, you could have it all great, but the user gets on there and they can't figure out who you are or what you do or where you want them to go next. We've seen many websites that are missing that, you know, especially really important factor. What do you want me to do?
Yep.
And then we really want to take a bigger look at your content. Is your content aligned with your goals?
Yeah, I think those are all really important elements on your website to look at.
So when you talk about content, it's on your website and it's in a number of other places. So I
Mhm.
wanted to take a moment and talk about evaluating your messaging.
Mhm.
So looking at your website and also the other places that you communicate, are you reaching out frequently and consistently to your customers?
Mhm.
When you're talking to them, is your message consistent? Is what you say in your website the same thing you say in your newsletter, the same thing you say on social media? Are you using the same tone and the same things that are important to you?
Mhm.
Is this message consistent with those goals that you just created?
Sure.
Is it going to get you there? And is your message focused on your customers' needs? I have a little funny saying that I always say when I'm looking at not me, but thee. It sounds pretty old fashioned, but it's a nice rhyme. And every time I read a message that we're writing for a website, I'm like, is this about me? Or is it this about the customer and their needs?
I love that. That's extremely important. The messaging really should focus on the customer or that target ideal customer that you want to be working with, not focused on look at how awesome we are, but these are the amazing things that we can do to solve the problems that you have.
Which really brings us very neatly into the next segment
your
of our
customer.
presentation, which is know your customer. It's amazing how little you might know. So there's a couple things you want to ask yourself. And you might want to have a third party interview a few of your customers,
Mhm.
because we have found over the years a lot of people feel like they know their customers and why they're choosing them. But when we go out and talk to them, we learn different things.
Mhm.
It may not be what you think. How did they find you? Why do they buy for you? Why do they keep buying from you? Here's a whole list of like things that we want to find out, that you want to answer so that you really understand who you're talking to.
And I know when we've conducted this research on behalf of our clients, it's really quite fascinating because we'll go through and ask these questions to our clients and about their customer, and they'll come back with a specific set of assumptions.
Mhm.
And then we go and ask the actual customer these same questions. And they may think that, oh, they're only buying from us because we have the lowest price.
Exactly.
But actually, we found out, very recent scenario,
Yeah.
where they loved the relationship that they had with the customer service department. So it wasn't necessarily price. But again, you don't want to make assumptions on what's important to your customer. It's best to really get inside the head of the customer.
You also want to take a little time to walk in your customer's shoes. Maybe they're not all in boots. Maybe they wear high heels, or maybe they're flip-flops. But joking aside, take a look at your website or the different ways your customers have to connect with you. Walk a moment in their shoes. Fill out the contact forms. Call the office and see what happens. Who picks up the phone? How do they talk to them? Sign up for your newsletter. Sign up and spy on the webinar that your coworkers are doing and see how they do. Are you getting the same experience that you want them to have, that you're expecting them to get? Take a look at those things.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. I've actually talked about this a couple of times with some other groups that I've presented to, and I'll always ask, how many of you have actually filled out your website contact forms? It's a very small percentage typically, because you do want to test that. Just because it worked, a month ago doesn't mean it's working today. You never know what's happening with that. But even calling the office, are you expecting a certain way for someone to be greeting those or being put on hold? What does that sound like to your potential new customer?
Oh my gosh, what does the hold music sound like?
Which I just got feedback today. We have some great hold music.
Oh, nice to know.
Yeah, like I didn't even know that. But okay. So an exercise around who is your customer, kind of very similar to the one that we talked about, knowing, like asking your customer these questions. But what we often like to do is help you build out your ideal customer profile. So basically what I'd like you to do, and this is typically an exercise that takes about 60 minutes when we're doing it with with any clients on our team, is think about someone that you absolutely love doing business with. You enjoy the relationship that you have with them professionally, but in addition, it's a profitable relationship that you have. So define a name to that. Know who they are specifically. And then you'll go through and you'll answer these questions, and I'm just going to kind of run through them fairly quickly. But the idea is the more that you understand and get inside the head of this ideal customer, the better that you can communicate to them in the future. So it may seem pretty deep. What are their emotional fears or worries? But again, the pain that that target customer has, and the better that you can connect and resonate with your messaging in alignment with that pain, the better you're going to build trust with them. Understanding who it is that they want to impress. Are they trying to impress their boss? Are they trying to impress their family or their peers, their coworkers? Who is it that is important to them to say, yes, I've done these things and I've done them well? The one that I really like a lot is, this is the first time, question number 9. This is the first time that you're having this conversation with this individual, and they say to you, you will gain my trust and comfort by, and then fill in the blank. What is that most important component to that target customer, as we spoke about earlier, that is ultimately going to win their trust and hopefully their business? So think about these, invest a little time, and make it happen.
So this is the product of this kind of exercise that we do. You get a little deeper into your ideal customer. I mean, the first part of this, knowing your customers, knowing who's actually buying from you. The second part is, who do you really want to buy from you? It may be a little different than who's buying from you now. So in order to be able to target and message to them, you ask them those questions, and then it's important to put them all in one place for yourself and understand, if I want to talk to my customer, we're going to give her a name, Cynthia, and we're going to say, what do we know about her? What does she care about? All those answers to that question, because this is a good reminder of when I write my next letter that's going out via email, or I write that messaging on that landing page on that website, who is this person and what is she going to care that I say? So each time you go to write a new message, you bring out that little sheet that tells you who my persona is that I'm trying to talk to.
Yeah, you're writing to Cynthia then in this example.
You're absolutely writing to
You're
Cynthia.
not writing to the masses, you're writing to that one person who you've done the research and you understand what's important to this your Cynthia, basically.
Yes, exactly. So the next part of our research that we like to do is to know your competitors. Here's a really great opportunity to figure out how to separate yourself from the herd. So identify a few competitors. Pick 3 or 5 that you're hearing about all the time when you go to sale. You lost the sale to this company, you lost the sale to that company. So-and-so says, can you do it like so-and-so? Pick 3 to 5 and then really look at them. Where do they show up online? Search for them, see if you can find them. What are the kinds of messages they're saying? Who are they talking to? What kind of content are they sharing with people? You're going to dive deep into those 3 or 5 because you're going to identify what they're doing differently than what you're doing and where those opportunities might lie for you to stand out when compared to them.
And something I want to add to this is, oftentimes, and this has happened more times than once, so we've worked on and done the competitive analysis on behalf of some of our clients, where we've done the research and then we came back and said, I don't think these guys are a competitor of yours. So it was an assumption that they made, and there was fear for some reason around them. And then we actually found some other competitors that were consistently showing up that they weren't even aware of. So again, this is why it's important to dive in to what other people are doing online related to the offering that you provide.
And of course, there are some tools that can help you with that. We've listed a couple of them here. Several of them overlap, so you don't have to have all of these tools, but you do want to look at them and see if one has the kind of look and feel and information that you want. There are free versions of most of these, but honestly, you get what you pay for. If you purchase their services, you get a more in-depth look at things. Many of them also have good libraries of resources to teach you how to do SEO, to teach you how to do competitive research or understand things. So they're not only the tool, but also the learning that you can do for them. keywords, which we'll get into later. Most of these have keyword research tools that tell about you and your competitors. And they also have what we'll call crawlers that will take a look at your website or your competitors and tell them where your strengths and weaknesses are. So they're really great for giving you some nuts and bolts. But it becomes important then, if you use a tool, to use it again.
Yes.
You've made some changes, go back and see if those changes have made a difference.
Yeah, benchmark your work, basically.
Exactly.
Know where you are today to figure out where you're headed, basically, and have you made the right changes.
Then another place to look and understand your competitors is social media. There's so many different platforms you can be on. Here's a list of some of the major ones, but fill out a grid like this for yourself. How do you compare to your 3 to 5 competitors in terms of Facebook, Twitter, whichever of these platforms make a difference in your world? Followers, are they posting videos? When's the last time they blogged? And are you keeping up with them in comparison?
Yeah. I like looking at this from kind of, it's like a big bird's eye view of what's happening high level. But you can also often find, maybe all of your competitors are really strong on LinkedIn, but that's not the right channel for you. So you don't need to be there. But there's huge opportunity on YouTube because none of your competitors are maximizing that platform. So it identifies your weaknesses, but it also really pinpoints some opportunities, especially once you understand your customer and figure out where are they spending their time.
Exactly. Once you've taken a look at your competitors, you need to think about how people are finding you. There's a couple different things to figure that out. One is to do what I'll call a channel audit. Where are you distributing your messages? If you've done the chart that we were talking about beforehand, you see a lot of different channels you could be. Which of those social media platforms are you using? Are you doing EPUBs and newsletters, blogs, or emails, or e-blasts? Where are you distributing? And if you're missing one of those, would that be something that would make sense? Have you optimized these channels? Have you done all the bells and whistles and filled out your profile completely and made sure, I should have listed Google in here.
Sure.
Do you have your Google business information filled out properly so people can find you there? And then know what your competitors are using, because there's opportunities there. Maybe they've missed one and you can be the only person in that channel, or maybe they're somewhere you need to be as well.
Yeah, those are great questions. And the value add tip, a big takeaway is any social media channels you're using to fill out every single field that they make available to you, because that only helps you.
The next thing to look at, again, and knowing yourself and knowing how people are finding you, there is a ton of information in Google Analytics and on your own website as to how people are finding you. Where are they coming from? What devices are they using? Where do they go on your site once they get there? If you haven't really looked all through Google Analytics, it is well worth your time to learn how to use it a little bit better. Because, for instance, we have a sample of a sitemap here of, people came to my homepage and then they went to these different pages. Learning how people use your website and what pages they're finding the most useful and what pages they're bouncing from tells you what kind of content they're looking for and what kind of content you could be providing for them.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite. There's like 4 or 5 core areas I look at on Google Analytics, and I like looking at the user flow, basically. Yes. And I also like looking at the top channels that you have on here, which is basically how people have gotten to your site.
Exactly.
When it comes to keyword research, we have a whole webinar dedicated to this topic coming up. But the high-level overview for you is you have to understand how are people searching for you. Oftentimes, I hear a lot of companies get excited because they're getting found in Google because someone typed in their business name, their brand name. That's not going to help you generate new business. The goal is that you get found for the pains that people have. So I want you to think about, I've got a screenshot here. We typed in cars, and nowadays, people don't just type in one word. They've learned that you have to continue to evolve your phrasing search to ultimately find what it is that you're looking for. So the other example, we have 2014 Toyota Camry, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's a zero more zoned in search that's happening here. What I just highlighted on the screen is the level of competition. So there's two things that we look for when we're looking at, these are the target key phrases that we should be focusing on. One is the level of search volume. Are people actually typing this into Google and looking for it? Or is this something that I think they're typing in and not actually finding? And some of those tools that Margie referenced earlier will give you some of those data and insights. The second thing is, what is the level of competition? Meaning, how hard is it going to be for me to actually show up on the search engines for this phrase? So cars, is that a billion? 11,000 million? Yep,
Yeah.
that's 11 billion searches show up in Google when you type the word cars in. But if you narrow it down, as most people are going to refine their search till they get what it is they're looking for, that's when you're going to get a little bit, a lot less competition. Not a little bit. 11 billion to 645,000 is a big difference.
It's still a big number.
But this is a lot more palatable as far as showing up in the search results. And this is also what I'd refer to as a long tail key phrase.
Exactly.
So there's multiple phrases and it's more zoned in and focused. That's the strategy that you should be looking at when it comes to what are the target key phrases or keywords that I should be focusing on. And as far as helping them through their journey, you have to understand and try to figure out what is that initial root cause or pain that they have that's gonna initiate ultimately you showing up as a solution. So, for example, let's say you sell parts for washing machines. Well, I'm not going to know what part I need exactly. I'm going to know that my washing machine is not working. So I'm probably going to go to Google and say, how do I fix a washing machine? Or, my washing machine is broken, something along those lines. I'm going to do a little bit of research and read some articles. And then I'm probably going to zone in and say, oh, well, it's more than not working. The spinning thing in the middle, I forgot what that's called. The tub isn't spinning,
The belt's
so
broken.
whatever,
No one's going to search for belt.
You're going to continue to refine as you learn until it comes to the conclusion that, oh, this part is broken, yes, right, and I need a new one of these. And then you're going to come and hopefully show up. But the goal would be that you show up at all stages of that pain, so that you are the trusted source providing support through their journey, and they ultimately want to buy from you at the end of the day.
So some of the questions that when you're looking for key phrases, and it's called keywords research, but as Lori said, it's really phrases that you're looking for. So as you're thinking about that, how do I? A lot of people start their search. How do I? This. So think about your product in terms of, if someone's saying, how do I do something? What do I need for this? Ask yourself the kinds of questions someone might ask that in the end they'd end up with your product. That's what we mean by the journey. So it's a number of questions you ask yourself. And then the phrase that comes after how do I is the one you want to look for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And that's where that lotus blossom comes in. Some of the questions that people are coming into place. Yep.
So this was a really high level look at the number of things that we look for when we start doing research to help a client start to build a roadmap from where they are now to where they're going. And so a strong strategy, which is what you want to come up with, deserves a really good research foundation. And so there's a couple things that belong in that research foundation.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you need to really understand yourself as a business and what it is that you're trying to achieve at the end of the day. You need to know where you are today, and that's why the research is so vital. You need to know your customers and get inside their head and figure out what is important in their buying decision-making process, and really understand your competitors and figure out, are they truly competitors? What is the message that they're putting out there? And what are their weaknesses, which ultimately convert to your opportunities?
Absolutely.
All right, so that's what we have here. We have a couple questions. We'll take a couple questions, but real quick, I mentioned, so our webinar series this quarter is Marketing Research and Strategy. The next one, which is on July 24th, is on the digital competitive environment. So that's really going deep into understanding your competitors. And then on August 7th is the keyword research. Again, we're going to go deeper, about 30 minutes or so, specifically on keyword research. So, all right, we can open up for questions. And if you'd like, feel free to go to keystoneclick.com/profits to download our free guide to profits. It can be mailed to you as a snail mail, nice printed piece, or available as a PDF download. 42 ways to build brand awareness, generate leads, and nurture those opportunities online.